I'm so excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to just talk about this wine. And I actually just got my kit of goodies like literally an hour ago. So this will be the first time I've had a chance to try all of them together at the same time with the wine, which is also really cool. So
super exciting. So I never, you know, you and I have known each other for a number of years, and I never thought we'd be in the potato chip business, but we're gonna get
I know, right?
business because Chef Matt created. I mean, these are the best potato chips of all time. So
I know.
Chef, he's at the house right now. So let me come on. I know. I don't know. It's like plagiarism. So he comes over with a bag of Lay's. I'm like, thanks, Matt. We were really nice.
We were fortunate as we were doing the R&D on this, Emily, and
you know what's in here though.
And I still had some of the spice mixtures, so I brought some extra ones for Tim because he loves them so much.
So I just lost 5 pounds this week, and now it's all coming back. So
yeah, there's nothing like potato chips to destroy all of that. So okay, I know that this joke is maybe like I'm just gonna I have to share this joke. It's so funny. I got a text a couple of hours ago from one of our members, Bernadine, who I just adore. She said that tonight for this event she wore her German bra. It's from a company called Stoppen from Floppen. So like, I need that bra.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
before you
like,
said that, I was gonna be like, I've never heard of, you know. So for everyone who's on the call, I'm sure you all know it's about, is it 2
it's
o'clock
2 a.m. in Germany right now.
So we are so grateful for this guy to even be attempting this call.
I'm gonna do this so we can see each other proper.
Yes.
Yes, much better.
And yeah, oh my gosh. So we're hoping, well, we're not hoping he's going to be on. We just got to give him a little bit of time. So I already stink at technology, and then I couldn't even imagine doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
I know. Well, I mean, if need be, we can certainly jump in and start talking about a few things as well. You know, I know that you went to go visit him in Germany. What was it, October?
I think it was October. I don't even remember. The whole world is, I can't keep my days straight, but it was definitely, I don't know, months ago or so, yeah.
August, September, I don't know. There were still grapes on the vine, right?
Correct. So it must have been the fall. Yes. Good.
Early fall, but yeah. Okay.
But as you know, Ernst Loosen and the Dr. Loosen Riesling program is the most highly regarded Riesling program in the world, right? So
right.
The ability to be able to create a wine with this gentleman was for sure a bucket list thought and opportunity for me. And so it was funny to show up and have him pick us up at the airport. You know, I mean, you know him, you know, with his, he's not on the phone, so we can talk about him while we're not listening. Like,
yeah, now's the time to share all the dirt.
Right, his awesome hairdo, and he picks us up at the airport and stuff. And so in Germany, as everyone knows, you can drive like 120 miles an hour. So he picked us up, and we went 120 miles an hour to get to his winery. Like, it was totally crazy.
I've got to move to Germany. That is amazing.
So.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, and also like you had just gotten off the plane, and it was I'm sure you're jet lagged. And so what time did you actually arrive in the Mosel? Like, what time did you actually get to the winery? And what time of day did you have the first glass of Riesling in your hand?
I think, well, so we landed early. I think it was about 6:37 in the morning, and then he picked us up, and so we probably got to Mosel about I don't know, about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And you know, he had a lot of just incredible, wonderful stories. You know, he's a first class human being. You know, and again, I will say that to him when he jumps on the phone. He's so in the room next to me. He's trying so hard to get all this tech stuff to work, and I feel so bad for him. But he truly is, he's a one-of-a-kind individual. I know you've known him and met him over the years and such. So But you know, to be able to create a Riesling with Ernst, like, holy cow, right? It's like as cool as it gets. And then Emily, now we got to set our goals to, you know, make a champagne or do something extra super cool for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'll tell the story about, you know, kind of what my introduction was going to be today, was just talking about dry Riesling. And, you know, you know, a lot of sommeliers just, they fall in love with Riesling. And I think one of the really amazing things about Riesling is that it has this incredible versatility. You know, Riesling can be, it can be like very dry, just slightly sweet. And, you know, as I was learning about Riesling, I was learning about what's called the product level. So all the different levels of Riesling that start with something that's just lightly sweet, kind of like a fresh Granny Smith apple, which is pretty similar to the Riesling that we make at Cooper's Hawk. And then they gradually get sweeter and sweeter. And, you know, the Germans are just so very organized. There's like all these different steps for each level of sweetness. And so you can have one vineyard of Riesling that's producing seven different bottlings based on how sweet it is. And I just found that so interesting. And I just really adored the different levels of sweetness. And so then I went to Germany for the first time, gosh, maybe 15 years ago. And it was, and what blew my mind was that, you know, that actually wasn't really what the Germans were drinking. They appreciated those wines, and they kind of divided them into the category of either fruity or lusciously sweet. But what they were actually drinking in Germany was this incredible range of bone dry Riesling. And I just thought it was the most amazing stuff. I think we have Ernie on the line.
Wait for it.
Hey! And there's the man.
I don't know why there's always this problem. So sorry, folks. You hear me?
So nice to see you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So as I was saying, you know, like going to Germany and being able to taste the range of dry wines in Germany, and just I really fell in love with the style, and it's really exciting to see how you know, dry Riesling is really taken off in the United States, and now you see a lot of different wineries producing that, both in the U.S. but also a lot of these dry German Rieslings coming over. And you know, I have to tell you, like, if I had a desert island wine, for me, it is hands down, it's dry Riesling. And what I love about it is, to me, it's like electric wine. It's like, it's just so beautiful and intense, and like this brilliant acidity and this lusciousness and these really incredible, powerful flavors. It's I mean, it's just thrilling. It's incredibly refreshing, and it's also incredibly versatile with food. And I think that throughout our evening, we're going to talk all about how amazing Riesling is, and I know Ernie in particular is the total minister of Riesling. So yeah, let's get going.
Ernie, if you can hear us okay, do you want to take a moment to tell us how much you love Riesling? And we would love to hear your, you know, Emily and I, of course, know your story and such, but I super enjoyed our time together, and I know our wine club members, you know, the almost 500,000 wine club members would love to just hear you for a moment, if you don't mind. That's us.
Yes.
Well, you know,
We had some incredible food, had some incredible times, and it was a wonderful visit. But you guys, like, one of the things that I shared with Emily that was fascinating to me, so we love Riesling, like, incredible,
yeah.
But you guys like drink Riesling all day long over there. Like, you know, so what are some of the other varietals that you guys enjoy? I know Spapagander being Pinot Noir, but do you have any other favorite drinks that you enjoy to share with your friends?
well, you know, I mean, beside of Riesling, which is the most famous grape variety here in Germany, because Germany is producing 50% of the world production of Riesling is all in Germany. You can believe that is the #1 grape variety of Germany. But the funniest thing is, sometimes you think if we are the largest, by far the largest Riesling producer in the world, the Germans would love to drink only Riesling, you know? But I think the favorite grape variety of Germany is Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris. Funny, that is, and this is the other funny thing. Nobody knows that Germany is also the largest Pinot Blanc producer in the world, and the second largest Pinot Gris producer in the world, and the third largest Pinot Noir producer in the world. So everybody would think, oh, Germany is only Riesling, but Germany is also, as I said, first in Pinot Blanc, second in Pinot Gris, and third even in Pinot Noir, which nobody knows. But Riesling definitely is, since more than 100 years, the grape variety which made Germany famous. You know that 100 years ago, 120 years ago, turn of the century, 1900, the German Rieslings have been the most expensive wines in the world, 2 times more expensive as the first growth clarets. If you look to old wine lists in London around 1900, Riesling from Mosel and Riesling from Pfalz, you know, and from the Rheingau have been 2 to 3 times more expensive as first growth clarets. We would love to have these days.
It's true. Well, you know, so backing up a bit, Ernie, I just wanted to ask you, you know, if you know, what is the greatest white grape on the planet, and why is it Riesling?
Well, you know, Riesling, as I said, 100 years ago, had the reputation to be one of the greatest white wine grapes, the queen of the white wine grapes. And I was thinking there's something to do with the versatility of the grapes. First, I think every great wine in the world, I mean, has to have aging potential, you know? A wine which you have to drink in between the first 1 or 2 years never can be a great wine. A great wine is always a wine which is great as young, but also has great aging potential and shows even after 20, 30 years, I mean, huge grace, you know? And Riesling can do it. The Riesling is one of the very few grape varieties which you can age, you know? You can drink it young and you can drink it old, you know? Sure, the wine change. And then the versatility of the Riesling. You can do it in the dry style, you can do it in the fruity style, you can do it in noble sweet wine. It's one of the few grape varieties in the world where you can do so many things, you know. I mean, I read once an English journalist said, Riesling is like an actor which can play in a lot of plays, you know, and that makes, that I'm sure makes Riesling so great, because you can find a Riesling for everybody's taste, you know. There are people who said, no, I don't want sweetness, I want only dry wine. You have a dry Riesling. And there are people, oh, I like a little bit residual sweetness. You have a wonderful cabinet. Oh, people say, I love noble sweet ones. You have a Beerenauslese or Trocken Beerenauslese or an Auslese. So it's an amazing grape variety which can do so many things. You know, a Chardonnay you can oak or unoak. That's it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's so cool. Well, and I think one of the other things that everybody really loves about Riesling is that it's just so incredibly versatile with food. And in which point, actually, Tim, I wanted to ask you about what dishes we have at Cooper's Hawk that you think work not just great with Riesling, but with this Riesling in particular.
Well, I think this.
Well, I mean, you know, we produce for you guys a special dry Riesling, you know, which has a beautiful, you know, pureness and the freshness that is very typical for Riesling. Riesling doesn't need oak, you know, to perform. You know, Riesling has enough fruit on its own, has enough, you know, character on its own that you don't have to add new oak or whatever, you know, to give it more taste, you know. Riesling can also perform with lower alcohol. We don't need 14% alcohol to have to get a performance. Just the opposite. I think Riesling from our area performs much better with a little bit lower alcohol, so around 12%, you know, or even with 11.5%, you know. Great wines for luncheon, versatile for a lot of different types of food, you know, especially if you have this kind of fusion, you know, eat meat West cuisine, you know, a little bit Asian, a little bit European, a little bit, you know, American, international, you know. That is the great thing, you know. I mean, a dry Riesling, as you guys got it, you know, I mean, really works with everything, you know. Really, absolutely gorgeous because it's pure, it's refreshing, it has lots of great aroma structure, usually apple, what we say, called stone fruit, apple, peach, whatever, you know. And for you guys, we made a special dry Riesling. We call it always the tea bag winemaking, you know, because we ferment, to give a little more character to the wine, we ferment 5% of the full grapes with the wine, you know. And these full grapes, you know, we take the grapes, we don't crush them, we put it in a bag, you know, and then put it into the wine during the fermentation. So it gives a little bit more, you know, I mean, complexity to the wine, a little more depthness, you know, and it keeps the fruit, but at the same time, with a lower alcohol, it gives a lot of, you know, complexity to the wine, you know. It is,
it really does.
It is kind of thing, you know, there's this natural orange thing. It is a little bit out of that, you know, out of this winemaking, makes great wine, you know. So we tried it since a few years, and I thought this is it's great. It's the result. We are so happy about it.
Yeah, so are we. So are we.
We're so happy with it. So, you know, when talking about foods, Tim, are there dishes on the Cooper's Hawk menu that you like to pair with this Riesling?
Well, you know, so for the record, when I was able to have dinner at Ernie's house, it was one of the best meals like I've ever had. So we had, I think we had smoked trout. So Matt, can I just show for the camera? So we had smoked trout your night at your home, which was incredibly wonderful. We had carpaccio in a salute to your country. We're eating, you know, German sausage cheese, but it's sugar. I think, you know, it's the best food wine. You know, Emily, you and I have had this conversation 100 times over, you know, like it's the best food wine of all time. If I have a favorite dish, though, I have to think about it a little bit. You know, we had Wiener Schnitzel at lunch when Ernst and I met.
Yeah, but what about at Cooper's Hawk? Are there dishes on our menu at Cooper's Hawk that you like? I know I have a few favorites to go with Riesling.
Yeah, so I'll let you go after me because you have to, but yeah, this is the most food versatile wine of all time, as you know. So it pretty much goes with anything. My favorites would be the sashimi, the Brussels sprouts with the Thai sauces that Matt does so well and such.
So good.
Yeah, those are my my two favorites. As I will say at the moment here. So how about you?
Yeah, I love the barramundi. I think that the you know, like the really aromatic flavors in that dish are really, really great with Riesling, with the lemongrass and, like, you know, that really delicate Thai curry. The crispy pork and crispy shrimp, you know, both of those have some nice Asian flavors to them. I mean, anything, frankly, that has raw fish in it. So sashimi, you know, the tuna tacos, the blackened tuna, like all of those things, I think are great things for people to enjoy with Riesling.
Awesome.
I totally agree. I mean, I tell you, I made the most amazing experience, you know, with dry Riesling as you have it, you know, when I was in Peru, you know, and we had been visiting, I've been visiting my importer, you know, and, you know, Peru, they are so proud about the ceviche, you know. I mean, you know, raw fish, you know, with lime, you know, and spicy, you know, a little bit chili, peppers, onion, and so. And I asked the most famous restaurant there is Central, you know, world famous, belongs to the 10 best restaurants in the world. And I asked the sommelier, he was, by the way, an American guy from the South, from Georgia, and I had asked him, what do you think is the best wine for ceviche, you know? And he said, I tell you, the best wine for ceviche is Riesling from the Mosel. And I said, oh, which one, the dry one or the fruity one? The funny thing, and then he said, he said rather a fruity one, but then I had been going with my importer to the best ceviche restaurant the next day, and we tried a fruity one, a dry one, Riesling with me, and we all agreed that the dry wine worked much better. So because you know you have the liminess, you know, and the spiciness, you know, from the chili pepper, and then the dry Riesling. You have to try it. It's so wonderful because the funny thing, because
So
of the
good.
lime, the dry Riesling suddenly turns a little bit sweetish, you know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have to try it first, then you have the dry Riesling, then you do the ceviche, and then you try the wine again, and the wine is totally different. I think it's the most amazing, for me, it was the most amazing food pairing, how a wine changed completely with the food, you know. And I mean, I can recommend it to everybody. And it doesn't matter which ceviche it is. I just came from Spain, and they do a lot also raw fish, a little bit marinated with, you know, olive oil, a little bit with lime, you know, very simple, salt, pepper, nothing more, you know, and absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you wouldn't think you go to Greece, you know, but we had every day the sommeliers in Greece recommended a dry Riesling from us, you know, to the people.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. So it is really so you can't do anything wrong. That is the funny thing. You can order everything, and the dry Riesling always works. That is amazing.
We actually included in the kit a little recipe you may have noticed here. There's a link to try it with an Asian ceviche, which is awesome. It's our chef Matt put this together, this recipe. It's dynamite. We would have put it in the kit, but it's kind of impossible to pack Riesling or like to pack raw fish into a kit of snacks like this. But speaking of the snacks, Tim, will you talk about what's in this box? And I think, Ernie, you've gotten most of these snacks as well.
Yes, I got the box too. Yesterday, 2 days ago.
No, it's so
Excellent.
fun. Isn't that
Tim,
so cool how, like, as I was
box?
sitting here, the snack box just arrived, and I have the best person in the whole entire world. So, yeah, for those of you that are watching, Ernie, like, holy cow, we have some great stuff. So these chips, I want to just say, they might change our entire business model, right? I think they are the greatest chips of all time. I gave some to my mom recently. We've been eating them all week.
All right. Speaking of which, I'm going to just give a little plug here. I keep seeing people asking about these chips. So they're from a company that's called Wine Chips, and they make all of these different chips that are meant to go with wine. And we created this custom chip for this wine. So Ernie, I hope you have had a chance to try these with the wine. They're so addictive.
They're so good.
Yes.
Wish I had never tasted them.
That is the other thing, you know. I mean, you know, you sent me the box of the snacks with the nuts and the chips and so on, and I tasted it. And, you know, give you another story about Riesling, the tradition in our area when we drink Riesling. We not only drink Riesling with the food. Riesling was always with my grandfather. You see, I'm sitting here in the library of my grandfather, you know. My grandfather, every afternoon at 4 o'clock, he had been sitting in this library and opened a bottle of Riesling, you know. That was his afternoon tea, you know, with some snacks. Or if he receives guests at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the English people, they offer a cup of tea, you know, with milk or whatever, you know. This is a typical wine that is a tradition here. Also as a, you know, welcome drink. If you receive guests in the afternoon and you offer a glass of Riesling, you know, and have some snacks like you have here, as you send me the nuts or chips or whatever, you know, perfect, you know. It's also a great welcome drink, and you offer snacks and chips and nuts and a glass of Riesling because it's so light and so refreshing, you know.
I want you to be
perfect alternative to afternoon tea.
For sure. I want to ask you the question. In the Mosel, do you guys brush your teeth with Riesling and toothpaste? For real, like, there's nobody I've ever met in my whole entire life that's so passionate about Riesling. Like, so,
well, no problem to do it, but, you know, for me, it's a little bit too early. But I mean,
you're awesome.
Spare the toothpaste.
Right?
You're awesome.
But it is.
Well,
I mean,
love
really,
this
it is really amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Thank
But
you.
you know, that is also, I mean, you know, especially if you have these kind, the little bit, I mean, you know, what always, I mean, saltiness, you know, you have with chips, you have a little bit saltiness. Sometimes, you know, it depends what style you're doing. Sometimes you have pepper or spices or nuts, the same. I mean, Riesling works very well with saltiness, you know, and spiciness. From that point of view, ideal for these kind of snacks you sent me, you know, absolutely gorgeous, you know. Because, you know, oakiness doesn't work with saltiness. That's not so good, you know. And so,
No, I
but
agree.
if you have the nuts, you know, the little bit saltiness, the freshness of the Riesling, it works perfect, you know. That's the reason also with you know, if you have sushi, this you know the
Oh, with the soy sauce.
soya
right.
sauce or whatever, you know, works perfect with Riesling or sashimi or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, we tried to put together with this snack kit, really talk about flavors from all over the world that work with Riesling. So we have things like, you know, one of these jerkies has Asian flavors. We've got the paprika on the cashews, which you see, I think you see more in like Eastern Europe. We've got the barbecue. We've got the Indian curry. Like, just like Riesling is not, it's not a one-trick pony. That's what I love about it, is that it just goes with foods from all over the planet.
Yeah, well, it's really if you don't know what to choose, I mean, you know, I mean, nowadays there's so many different type of food. If you go to a restaurant, you have a huge wine list nowadays, and so on. If you're not sure, if you're, I don't know, what should I taste? I mean, with a dry Riesling, you never can go wrong. You never can go wrong.
It's true. So Ernie, just to change gears a little bit, I want to talk about where you are, where your winery is. And in fact, I've got a picture to show here of the Mosel, which I just think that it's the most spectacular part of the world. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about the Mosel and what makes it so unique.
Yes. Well, you know, our estate, Dr. Loosen estate, is a typical family estate as it is here in Europe. Long time in the family. In this case, the estate is 200 years in the family. Since 200 years, we grow Riesling here on the River Mosel. The River Mosel is the most northern growing wine region of Germany, or in this size, even in Europe. You see, you have these steep slopes. The river is winding itself through the slate hills of the Rhineland. We call these hills here the slate hills of the Rhineland. Took the river 200 million years to dig the valley into the slate hills of the Rhineland. You see, it is on the most western part of Germany, close to the French-Luxembourg border. It is the valley, basically, which gives us the microclimate, gives us the right climate to grow Riesling, and also the soil which we have here, the slate soil, a very stony soil. And this combination of the steep slopes, the slate soil, and the River Mosel, these three components gives us the ability to make these great Rieslings there, you know. It is a very special, what we call microclimate. Steep slopes,
That's insane.
slate soil, and the River Mosel, you know, these three components, that makes our wine.
Try the pork cushion.
Yeah, I mean, your vineyards are just unbelievable. I can't even fathom what it's like to farm those. I have to ask you, like, why in the hell would you ever plant grapes on a slope that steep?
Yes, you see, they're really steep, enormously steep, insanely steep. Well, it is the Romans 2,000 years ago who found out that wine grows amazingly well in these very steep slopes. This, you know, for all kind of, you know, farm product, you need very fertile soil. You know, if you want to grow corn or wheat, you need fertile soil. But vineyards need very poor soil. As poorer the soil, as more poor the soil is, as better the wine. And these insane steep slopes, stony soils, you know, there is no soil. There's only stones there, you know. That makes great wine because it's the poorest soil you can find, you know. And the Romans saw it, and they saw the facing slopes which get sunshine from morning to evening, and they started to grow wine there and found out, oh my God, this is the best place to grow wine. And so, we never change it. We are a little bit slow, you know. We still do the same thing since 2000 years.
It's amazing. Well, I'm just going to say, you know, like for all of you out there, you think your job is hard. Imagine being these guys, you know, harvesting these grapes up those really steep hillsides. It's incredible.
Yes.
And, you know, Ernie, you also mentioned like the soil. I have a cool picture here of the soil. This is so, it's incredible. And would you say
only
that
stones.
slate
It's
is
only
the
stones.
magic?
Yeah, but it makes a great wine. These stones have a lot of potassium and minerals. They weather down in the soil and gives a little bit of this potassium and minerals to the soil, and that gives this kind of finesse and this raciness and this beautiful acidity and minerally driven style to our Rieslings in the Mosel, you know. It is definitely one of the secrets. This soil, I mean, you know, wine reacts to the soil. The French call it terroir, you know, they talk a lot about terroir. And sure, every terroir, every soil gives a certain character to the wine, you know. But our soil, this very stony slate soil, gives a very, very pronounced character to our wine. It's really easy to see it. If you drink the wine, if you taste the Riesling, Cooper's Hawk's Riesling, you get this minerality, you get this freshness, you get this. I mean, sometimes if I drink these wines, I get the impression, you know, I'm sucking on the wine, on the stones, you know. Yeah, this is the slate. You get the impression that you suck on the stone because this minerality really gives you the impression, oh my God, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know,
just really quick, the best part you would have loved was seeing me and Mike Paprocki try to keep up with Ernst in climbing the vineyards while his workers were making it happen. It was absolutely embarrassing.
It's amazing. You know, I remember being in the Mosel once in April, and it was kind of cold outside, but it was a sunny day, but it was cold. And like at 9 o'clock in the morning, touching that slate, and it was warm, and seeing the way that it radiates heat, you know, and you know, it helps.
1 hour, 1 hour of sunshine. It's like, I mean, it immediately collects the heat, and that makes this huge difference, you know? Because we are so northern, we need the warmness, we need the heat to get the grapes ripen, you know? But on the other hand, that they are so north, we have a very slow ripening period, you know? And the slow ripening period, that gives this great character to the wines too. Because, you know, if you have a ripening period, which is very hot, you know, the grapes, you know, very, very fast, you know, go up with the sugars, you know, and then you have high alcohols. But therefore that we need very long ripening time. So we are the last harvesting grapes, possibly in the world, you know. So we often harvest still into November, you know, November. In the old days, my mom always said, we never started before 1st of November picking grapes. Can you believe that? How late this is? Most people start mid of August or, you know, latest beginning of September. And we in the past started on 1st of November, this very long hang time of the grapes. That gives the graciousness to the wine, you know, and also the aging potential. That's very important, you know. Long hang time means also great aging potential. By the way, I found last year, in the cellar, you know, we have everything back to 1947. I found a wine, a dry Riesling, you know, similar what I sent to you guys, you know, from 1985, you know. And I said, oh my God, a 1985 Riesling, you know, from us, dry Riesling. Maybe very, very similar winemaking, what we did for you guys, you know. And I thought, oh my God, 85, this is now 45 years old, you know. I opened it and it was still delicious. Still delicious.
Oh, what is the oldest Riesling you've ever had? And for you, what is the most amazing Riesling?
Oh, my oldest Riesling I ever had was from 1900, 1911, 1915, 20, 21. And I tell you, that was from my cousin. And the 1911 and the 1921 and 1920, it was still amazing. I tell you, the 1900 was even a dry Riesling, you know, and that was still, therefore that was 100 years old, you know. It was not vinegar. It was.
That's that old is amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So that's like old claret. I had a few weeks later, I had 1900 Chateau Latour, you know. And I thought, oh my God, the Riesling was as good as this old 1900 Chateau Latour. Also from my uncle. My uncle has this huge Bordeaux cellar. He's a very nice uncle. He always opened nice old bottles.
I want that, uncle.
Yes, everybody wants these kind of uncles.
It's true. So I want to ask you a little bit about the Dr. Loosen estate. And I know, like, there's a few questions out there. You know, one of them is, like, first of all, are you really a doctor?
Yes, it's this old, everybody asks this. I don't know, but this is, I think, the most asked question, you know. Why does German estates always have a doctor title in front of it, you know? It's very simple to explain. You know, we Germans, we love titles, you know, and since we don't have a king or an emperor anymore who can appoint us to a viscount or lord or whatever, nobility, you know, we have to do bourgeois titles, you know? And, you know, and the most popular bourgeois title is to do a PhD at university, but here in Europe, it is different. In the US, you put the PhD behind the name, after the name, but here you do the PhD as a doctor title in front of your name, you know? And that is nothing else. My father had a PhD in law, my grandfather in social economy, my great-grandfather in economy. So the whole family has PhD. My brother won a PhD in physics, my brother-in-law, 2 PhDs. And so from that point of view, this is the whole explanation, you know?
That's great.
It's nothing else that the bourgeoisie here in Germany loves to do a PhD in university.
No, Tim, I think you had a story to share.
I just wanted just a little bit, Emily. So I had the most epic trip of my life, getting to spend time out there, as you can imagine. And so first, Ernie, before you were on the call, I was telling a little bit of a story about how fast you guys drive out there. So question number one is, how many speeding tickets have you gotten since we left? And
yeah, well, we are still the only country which has no speed limit on the highway. No, we are still allowed to speed, but sometimes you have speed limits on the highway, you don't see them, and then you're running in deep trouble.
No, for sure. Well, we're happy.
But I know a lot of people from foreign countries coming to Germany, you know, because they take immediately a Porsche as a rental car to experience, you know, to drive as fast as possible on the German highway. It's amazing that we still remain it. It's possibly the only country in the world. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, it was incredible when you picked us up, and I think going out, you guys do kilometers, but we were, I think, going about 120 miles per hour at a moment there, and so we loved it. We loved it for sure.
It's good.
And so, you know, knowing that, you know, this is one of the, you know, I want to speak to you directly for a moment, if it's okay. This is one of the most epic wine projects that we've ever worked on at our company. You know, I admire you with my whole heart and soul. It's been so cool. You hosted us at your home, and I wanted to just like tell the story a little bit. I don't even think the folks that are in my my home right now know the story, but you asked me what year I was born. I don't know if you remember. And so 1976, because I'm very young and 44 years old.
That's a good Riesling year.
Right? Yeah, so good. And Ernie, he went down to his cellar, and he brought a bottle. I can't even put a price tag on what he brought up. but brought up an incredible bottle of Burgundy for my birth year, and it was like just
Oh yes,
the most epic memories I'll ever have in my life. So, thank you.
yes, right.
We had fun, right?
Yes,
We
that was a nice bottle of Burgundy. Yeah, 76. You know.
yeah, good year.
We like to do this. This is often, we like to ask our guests, hey, what vintage are you? You know, and then if it is a good vintage, we go down to the cellar and bring a bottle of either, the vintage or a Riesling of this vintage, or, it is also a very European thing, and a tradition. So my father, my grandfather, they already collected Burgundy and Bordeaux. This is something, it's not that we drink our own wine the whole day long, So with certain food, we also like to have something else. And that is the good thing, if you have this tradition. So as I continue to, so you can go to the cellar, because I have wines from Bordeaux and Burgundy back to 1915, because already my grandfather bought them, my grandfather, my father. I'm buying it for the next generation. And so that is the nice thing, that you also can show, look, how wonderful other wines are. But if you put them in the row with a Riesling, you see that Riesling is as magic as a great Burgundy or a great Bordeaux,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's awesome. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. And your estate is so special. I wanted to talk a bit more about sort of just the history of Dr. Loosen, and like how you came to be the proprietor. I know that it's been in your family for a long time. Perhaps you could share a little bit of that.
Well, you see, as I said, it is very much a tradition here in Germany, that the wineries stay in the family. It's not that much the tradition, to sell it. You always, especially in our area where we are Catholic families, very strong Catholic area. We have a lot of kids, you will find at least one or two of your kids, who continue. We are 4 brothers, 2 sisters. And so it's me and my younger brother who are still in the winery. And it is a very, typical thing here in Europe, to go over years and decades, And we always hope that somebody in the family takes over. So from that point of view, as I said, it's 200 years in the family. Since 200 years, I think I'm 6th or 7th generation doing this estate now. We are bigger than I started. The winery was smaller and 30 years ago. And so you have these up and downs. My grandfather and grandfather have been great winemakers. My father was more in politics. Then I
Ernie, can you tell the story
of rebuild the reputation again? So you can imagine in 200 years, the up and downs, But I think that is the good thing with European families or here in Germany. If things are not going so well, you're not immediately selling it. You still hang on, You want to give it. You want to continue it. And so my father had to promise his father that he will never sell, even that he had a very good job. He was, as I said, a lawyer. But he had to promise his father that he will never, on the deathbed, that he will never sell the winery, And so from that point of view, if we would never did this promise, the winery would possibly be gone, because the new generation, they think you have to keep it, you have to keep it for the next generation. If you're not interested, keep it. Possibly the next generation will be interested in it. And that's a good thing. I'm very happy that my father didn't sell it, So,
can you tell the story of the rise?
This is possibly a little bit of a different attitude. You still keep the tradition, the heritage, even if you're not 100% interested in it, but you always think about the next or over next generation,
Yeah.
And so, and so you find basically a lot of these kind of estates here, But it is, and I think it's also we grow up in these wineries, We grow up, every day as a little kid, I have to go through the winery, our, bicycles, have been down in the cellar, in the labeling room, You had been going there, and the people had been standing there, labeling, pressing the grapes and the harvest, you know. So you really get the feeling from very little on, you know, what's happening here, because you're living on the property, on the winery, you know, where every day the work is going on, and you see the people, you meet the people. All these employees in the old days had been barely uncles, you know.
No, I hear you. Ernie, can you hear me?
It's a nice rate.
Can you hear me?
Yes, not
Your
too
story
good,
is
but
the best.
I hear you.
I have to ask one more story, because it was one of my favorite stories when we spent time together, was telling people about the when the river would rise, right? And
Oh yeah.
and literally
Well,
lost
these are also,
lifestyle.
yeah,
right?
because you live, I mean, if you live on a winery, and as you see, we live in the vineyards, you live with nature, you know? So nature is usually very good to us, makes great wines, you know, gives us enough sunshine to ripen the grapes and to make a great wine. But sometimes nature can be also pretty brutal, you know? And that is especially if you live on a river in such a narrow valley, lots of winter rain always causes huge floodings, you know? And we had this tremendous flooding in '93. The whole winery, you know, you saw the winery, the whole winery was flooded, you know? We had, I mean, how much was it? Oh my God, it was,
8 feet.
it was something like 15 feet water, you know, above the fermenting barrels. Can you believe it? The whole cellar was completely filled up, you know, with water, you know. Oh my God, I think this is a total nightmare if you experience anything like that, you know. And then you thought, okay, after the water had been gone again, you cleaned up the mess and everything, and then you said, okay, once in your life you can experience century flooding, we called it, the century flooding. That was the biggest flooding since 150 years, you know. But then the century became very short. 13 months later, we had another fucking century flooding, you know? And that's where, oh my God, was a nightmare. So from that point of view, we now keep all the bottles in the cellar, because the bottles can be in water, you know? You know, the cork, you know, if wine can't get out of the bottle, then water can't get into the bottle, you know? So we have old bottles which experienced a lot of flooding in the old cellar of my grandfather. So you have all the mud still from 1964 and 47, you know, on the bottles. So that is not a problem. But the actual winemaking in the barrels, I took to a more safer place, you know, because I tell you, you don't want to experience this. And I've been sitting, I remember it was Christmas '93, this flooding, you know, and the heating, and you know, Christmas, it's cold here. The central heating was underwater, the electricity was underwater, everything was underwater, and I've been sitting in this castle, you know, no heating, no light, with the dogs and the cats, you know, and my wife said, okay, honey, you know, I'm leaving, I'm going to my mom. So you have to watch the house. Thanks. Thanks, baby.
Well, glad you're okay. We're glad you're safe. Emily, bring it home. Like,
Yeah.
I think we've done something really special here, right? I mean,
we've got this wine is just so amazing, you know, and like I showed that picture before of you know, Ernie's house with and how it shows up on the Dr. Loosen label, and here it is on our label. I'm just really thrilled about this wine. It is everything that I hoped it would be. I hope that all of our wine club members out there are really, you know, feeling it the way I'm feeling it, because I will preach the gospel of dry German Riesling all day long, and I just love this, and I'm gonna drink as much of it as possible until it's gone. So I just kind of wanted to open it up for some Q&A, and I've gotten a few questions here. Just a few things like, let's see, there's so many questions.
just don't take any. If my mom asks any questions, like, just, you know, like, I'll call her tomorrow. So. Love you, Mom.
So Well, just like a couple of little questions, like why are Riesling bottles shaped the way that they are, and why are they green?
Yeah, that is not that long ago that these, you know, if you look to 200 years ago, there was no specific bottle shape for, as we know it nowadays. We have the Bordeaux bottle, the Burgundy bottle, and what we call the Rhine bottle. The shape of the bottle, which we have for Riesling, is called the Renania or the Rhine bottle. And this was these different shapes of bottle. You know, they started, you know, for the different types of wine, started more or less at the end of the 19th century. To be frank, why the Rhine bottle, I mean, just became this typical bottle for Germany or for Riesling, I don't know. But the color, for example, that started also very late, because turn of the century, 1900, around 1900, the Rhine bottle, the shape bottle as you have it here with our Riesling, the color was mostly still very dark blue, you know, they called it cobalt blue. But then in the 20s and 30s, 1920s, 30s, suddenly the color became also typical for certain area. And for whatever reason, the green, I think it has something to do with the wine, because the Mosel Riesling is the lightest, the clearest, and they always say they have green reflections in the glass. It turned out that the Mosel chose the green color for the bottle, and the Rhine chose the brown color for the bottle. That was very typical in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that the Rhine bottles had been brown in color and the Mosel was always green in color. That is to differentiate the Riesling from Rhine and Mosel, you know, by the color of the bottle. But the shape of the bottle, this you saw already, the first Rhine bottles in this shape you saw already 150 years ago, 140, 130 years ago, which was possibly an invention here in Germany from the glass producers, you know. But why this shape basically ended up here for Germany, I don't know.
Fair enough. Okay, so just a couple other questions. What cheese do you like with Riesling?
Oh, I you know, first, the myth that you have to drink red wine with cheese, you know, this is over, you know. Even the English understand now you can do much more and much better white wine with cheese as red wines. I personally like very strong cheeses, you know, but I like the cheese very much, you know. I like these strong red wine cheeses with Riesling. So these, you know, I mean, a ripe camembert or ripe brie, you know, the French stuff, this what they call époisse or l'ami de Chambertin, or these Normandy cheeses. So which has this red rime, you know, longer red rime, and a little bit, you know, runny inside. And if you leave them a little bit longer, they get stronger in taste and flavor. I like it because the strong taste works. For me, the acidity and the flavor of the Riesling cuts beautiful through this kind of strong flavor and this creaminess of the cheese. But yeah, I think you can do, amazing. I mean, every favorite cheese you can, because the Riesling and white Riesling, that works very well with all kind of cheeses, you know. I think you can nearly take your preference in cheese and try the Riesling. It will always work.
Well, very good. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's now 3 in the morning in Germany, and I just want to say, thank you so much for being with us. That was the end of my presentation.
Emily, thank you. Thank you. You are the hostess with the mostest, as we know. Ernie, we are so grateful for you. Like, oh my God, like for you to wake up in the middle of the night and like do this for us and our, 500,000 wine club members. Like I hope you know.
No problem.
you.
It was very nice. I enjoyed the talk very much, you know, and it's great, you know. I love this project. It was a great idea, and especially if I can do something special for you, you know, such a partnership, such a project. It's so nice and amazing. We have been
Well, let's
talking
not
so much
let it be our
beforehand. This is the great thing. You can do something special for you people, you know. You know about food, you know, things, and this is the right partnership. That is fantastic. I enjoy it very much what you guys do. It's great.
We're in
Thank
this
you.
together. We're in this together. Emily, thank you for
Thank you,
Yes,
and I hope
thank
that
you
we
to
can
Emily.
bring lots more
Thanks to
research.
everybody.
Bernie, go to sleep.
Cheers. You know,
Emily and I will drink wine while you're
you know
sleeping.
what my
Look at
grandfather
drinking.
always
You go to
said, you
bed.
know, you drink yourself sober on a Riesling because it's so light and refreshing. The right breakfast wine.
Cheers to
Okay,
you, my
cheers,
friend.
folks. No,
Thank you.
thanks
Thank
for
you
the
all
invitation.
members for being on the show tonight. So awesome.
Thank
Great.
you.
Love you.
Thanks.
Good
Love you.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Cheers.
Night.
Cheers.